Hello, my name is Lori and welcome to Lawrence County History Corner. Today we are taking a trip back in time to 1910 in Lawrence County, specifically Coal Grove, where a preliminary hearing of William McGinnis took place before Mayor Lyons of Coal Grove, which was held on a Monday morning, investigating into the mysterious death of Bert Nunley. The trial attracted a good audience from the entire village of Coal Grove, who was in sympathy with the young man as if any foul play was committed. They were desirous of having it brought to light. This actually was published, the article, in the Ironton Register, which was the predecessor of the Ironton Tribune, on the 20th of April 1910, and it was entitled "Man Arrested in Investigation of Death of Bert Nunley Released." Coroner Reinhardt examined several witnesses in the office of the attorney T.D. Shirkey, and is now convinced that Nunley met an accidental death from what he learned from his investigation and from the condition of the lifeless body that was found. It was rumored that blood was found along the sidewalk in Coal Grove, but the coroner on investigation found it to be true, but it was from chickens that had been no doubt been stolen and killed. Apparently it was a habit of young men to congregate every Saturday evening around the Ice Creek Bridge and drink whiskey and eat roasted chicken. Then it goes on to say on the 28th of April, it continues, the death is mysterious. It is untimely death by falling from the abutment of the north and western bridge over Ice Creek was the sad fate of Bert Nunley, a well-known and respected young man of Coal Grove at an early hour on Sunday morning. Bill Mosman and Bill McGinnis of the same village were with the fortunate man and claimed he went out upon the abutment on his own accord and, becoming overbalanced, fell to his death. Mosman says they had been all drinking. The death brought about a lot of rumors, of course, and about being murdered, and Coroner Reinhardt was immediately brought the body, which had been recovered from the bed of Ice Creek, which had been about 50 feet below the bridge they were on. The coroner quickly believed and left his verdict that it probably was a death from accidental falling and not a murder. Bert Nunley himself was 27 years old and was a faithful and industrious employee at the plant of the Yellow Poplar Lumber Company. His home was in Cannonsburg, Kentucky, and he lived there with his mother, father, and several brothers. He had been an employee of the Yellow Poplar Company for about 10 years, and his job was telling the lumber as it was being stacked. So he counted the lumber as it was being stacked onto whatever transport it was being used. He had originally boarded with Mrs. M. Gates in Coal Grove, but he had moved and went to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Reuben Higgins. Both of his landlords described him as an ideal and model young man. The daughter, Meta Higgins, of his second landlord, did tell the Ironton Register that he had been home for supper on Saturday evening, she saw him leave because she was aroused from her sleep at 1:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. He was coming to get his overcoat, and that's how he woke her up. He asked her not to lock the door, and he was going to take Will Mosman home, who was drunk. Mosman was in Ironton, and he said they had all been having a good time, drinking whiskey, and they had gone down the bridge, just finished drinking their liquor that they had. He said Nunley had gone out onto the bridge and had fallen, but he really wasn't sure how he had fallen, just that he saw him go down. Both Mosman and McGinnis, the two companions, saw him fall to the bottom of the creek and pulled his body out of the creek, but he had already passed. Mosman summoned Dr. William Shattuck of Colgrove, and of course he immediately pronounced Nunley deceased. Then the coroner was called in, and he examined the body as well, and Bingham and Jones, a local undertaker, was called to remove the body, and they put him in their funeral home in Ironton, where he was prepared for burial. W.D. Nunley, who was Bert's father, came to the city after, as soon as he found out about his son's fate, and took his body home in the company of Mr. Charles Jones Sunday afternoon. According to the coroner, Bert Nunley suffered a broken right leg between the knee and hip, a small bruise of the skin over his right eye, and beside his face being somewhat skinned up. That sounds like minor injuries considering how severe the drop had been. But anyway, Marshal Frank Andrews of Colgrove had Mosman and McGinnis arrested and held by Mayor Lyons Court pending an investigation of the affair, and they will be given a hearing that evening. That's on April 28th. Mosman was able to pay his bond, but McGinnis was locked up. They both were employees of the W.G. Ward Lumber Company of Ironton, excuse me. According to the police, blood was found along the road near the abutment where Nunley was supposed to have fallen off, so that gave them questions of whether he had actually fallen accidentally or had been pushed or there was something nefarious happening. Bert Nunley's funeral was held in Canonsburg on April 28th. It was largely attended. He was, which attested to how well the young man was liked. The Yellow Poplar Company itself had been shut down because of a slight accident, and all the employees of the Yellow Poplar Company was able to attend the funeral for their co-worker because of an accident that had happened at the lumber company. Bingham and Jones, the funeral home originally having the body, reported that it had been a long time since they had so many phone calls about a funeral and arrangements. Sunday evening, after the body had moved away from the mortuary parlors, 7 young ladies of Colgrove asked to take a last look upon the face of one they held in such high regard, but they were sadly disappointed, for the remains were on their way home to his home in Kentucky. As for the parents of Bert Nunley, they are highly respected and conscious Christian people, and obviously saddened by the loss of their son. If you would like to read more about the death of Bert Nunley, you can go to our genealogy department. It's on the second floor of the Ironton Library, or you can call at 740-532-1124. They have all kinds of different records, including newspapers that go back to 1850, and that is actually where this came from. It's from the Ironton Tribune, the 28th of April, 1910. And you can always call us, and if you have questions about local history, and we will do our best to help you. I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.